Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the creative season. We are going to do this really fun fall bouquet, but instead of doing more of these orangey colors, we are going to do some really fun magenta and really the other side of fall, right? The magentas, the blues. So I'm super excited today, and this is going to be a very fun project. Also, I've got my 9x12 piece of paper here. I've got it all taped out. I have actually cleaned off my palette so I can see the colors. We're going to be staking within the blues, the pinks, pulling into the magentas, and then pulling a bit on the greens today. So we're probably just going to use a couple of colors. It's going to be a blast. What I am going to do first is I am simply going to sketch out my flowers here. I'm really actually just going to sketch out where they're going to go. And I'm going to have a couple going to the side. I'm going to have just a couple of loose sketches here. These are the kind of the daisy mums. They're so pretty. I received a bouquet for my birthday that had these flowers in them, and I thought they were darling. Now you can see on this paint picture here what had happened too is they were looking really nice, and then I threw this one in, which is fine, but it kind of threw off the bouquet. So anyways, we're gonna kind of clean this one up a little bit today in this new edition, and I am just super excited as well because we are getting really close to Christmas and the holidays and thinking about making gifts. And if you are like me, I like to buy, of course, purchase gifts, but it's fun to make some gifts, and a lovely watercolor bouquet might be really fun. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to make sure we have an uneven number of flowers. I wanted a really full bouquet, so I'm going to go ahead up here. I'm going to make a couple more right here, and I'm thinking too about our shape, right? So our eye is going to go up and out, and I'm also going to employ some splattering because that's always a lot of fun. And I think I'm going to make one right here. This one will be kind of sticking outward. Okay, so now that I have those down, what I'm going to start out by doing is, again, I want this to be really that feeling of fall, kind of that moody mystery. So I've got my magenta that I'm mixing up in here. I've got the pink. So of course with watercolor, we want to add lots of water to our color, right? So make sure to get everything nice and wet. I've got a phthalo blue here. That is, I'm going to use, this isn't French ultramarine back there. So if you want to use a couple different colors, go for it. But blue, magenta pink, and a little bit of green is what we're going to do today. So before we get started, actually, let me go ahead and lay down the centers of my flowers. And the centers of my flowers, we're going to make them nice. We're going to make them pink. That nice, really dark pink. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these out. I am not feeling the need, don't have to feel the need to cover up the entire face with water, right? We're just going to lay it down. This one's going to be going out to the side, so I've got some too that are not as perfectly round. I am going to go ahead and splatter around too. Let's just splatter. There we go. You see, I sketched a little bit on this one just to give me an idea of where I want to go. If you wanted to sketch out all of your petals, you certainly could. I think I'm not going to this time. I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going to lay them. But what I sometimes will do is think about my dominant flowers. So I've got that one's going to be a dominant. What I mean is we're going to see all of the flowers, and it's going to end up covering up some of these flowers, right? But you can see as we go along, it'll become very naturally. So we're going to let that dry just a little bit. Let's grab our green. I am going to grab a Hooker's Green Dark, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start creating my beautiful stems and just laying those down. Remember, add lots of water. And the stems for these mums, I think they were mums is what they were. Mums are some sort of daisy, but they were nice. They were looser stems. They did not have big leaves, but there was definitely leaves. We want to make sure we have a stem for every flower, right? And we'll end up coming back and adding some blue to our green, and that's going to be really fun. Again, you're thinking to yourself, who might you want to give a beautiful flower? We're actually going to have a lot of space, so if you even wanted to add in a quote, for example, or a, just something, a saying that they love, that you could really personalize this. And with the 9x12 shape, I'm going to add in some more stems up here for extra greens. It's really fun because it's an easy shape to frame. You don't have to get a custom frame, which is always a bit of a pain, right? It can be a lot of work, especially as we get closer and closer to the holidays. All right, so now you may be thinking these are not really fall colors, but in like seasonal archetypes, when we're looking at fall colors, we're looking at the intensity. We're looking at the warm or cool, and fall colors are warm. So this is hooker's green is a bit cool. We're going to end up warming up a bit. But we're also looking at muted colors. So these are all going to be dark, muted colors. There's a heaviness to them. All right, let me grab some blue. Rinse out your brush really well. Grab some blue and that magenta. And I'm going to mix it up. It's going to be a really deep purple. So then here we start going into some of those moody colors of the season, and I really love this. Now we'll probably end up doing a little bit of ink work, so even though there's quite the contrast right now between the center, just wait, it's going to really end up being beautiful. We're going to add some pink back into these flowers, which is going to be lovely. Make sure your petals are not all the same. They can be kind of coming in and going out as well. So if you see what I mean, it's not like a sunflower where there's hundreds and hundreds of them, but it's a full flower and they're going all the way around. There might be some gaps around there. Now I'm going to come over to the other side, and I often am working around the painting. I just think it's a lot of fun to kind of move around it and keep that flow going. I'm going to come back over this one. This was another dominant one. We will be putting more splattering too, which is really going to be fun. So I'm just moving this around. What I could even do as well with this guy, we've got some, as I can go ahead and add a little bit more splattering if I wanted to, right again, or maybe right down here. And then as that splattering moves, I can take those splatters and incorporate them. It creates a real fun, loose feel. So if you're trying to create paintings too that are a little bit looser, not so structured, this is a really fun way to do it. And just moving around the board. Now what I do want to take is I want to grab some of my pink and mix it in a bit, and then start adding that right over here. Isn't that fun? And start really creating really fun colors here. I'm going to come over here with this one, and this paint flower, I don't have it. It won't be one of the dominant, so it's kind of hiding a bit. Also with this one, we're almost seeing it at a different angle. So I'm going to keep my petals a little bit shorter. It's almost facing up a little bit, and these petals are also facing a little bit differently. And we can even add some pen details with that later if we want to. So again, moving around, we're seeing everything come across really, really nicely. I'm going to come back over. I'm going to grab some more magenta here, mix it up with some of the pinks. So we're just using a couple of colors, and then come back over on this flower. And once again, you can see I'm just moving around, using the tip of my brush to get the really nice edges. And this one I have maybe a couple of petals coming out to the side. And I can come back to grab in some of the darker color, even with this one, for example, and just dot around the edges to create some shadowing, right? And that looks really, really nice. Now, with this one being so dark, I definitely create at least one other that's a bit dark. And you may be saying to yourself, gosh, that's too dark for me. You can always come back with a dry brush, and that'll just eat up some of the color, or you can even just move it around like this, just letting it go. And again, looking back, okay, here's my other one down here. These are really, really pretty. Now we're going to have to add some darker color to the stems too, so that we have that intensity that's moving around the entire painting. And as you're painting, I'm wondering who you might, if you're thinking about gifting it to someone, who you might be gifting this to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've lost one of them. Here's my other one back here. And this is not one of my dominant flowers. It's hiding in the background. So with this guy, I'm going to be a little bit more careful as I move around her, sweet flower. And there we go. And I will most likely come back and emphasize this one up front, right? Those darker petals that are taking over a little bit. They're standing up in front Okay, so we're gonna let this dry. We're gonna come and fill it out, but we wanna be careful that we don't bleed into each other. Right now we're doing pretty well. We don't have a lot of bleeding going on, which I'm very happy about. I'm gonna come back and add just some little details right in here. Just deepen this up, add a few more petals right around here. That's really, really lovely. Let's go ahead now and add a bit of your blue, whatever blue that you're using, add some blue to the green that you were using. Now, come back over and let's start adding in some darker color. You could even add some of the purple to your green. That'll actually purple, and because there's red and purple, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I add some of the purple that I created to the green, depending on how much I add, we get, we'll go back over here. You can sometimes even get a touch, it looks like it might be going to brown because of the red and the purple. So just keep an eye on that. That'll actually work for stems. We just want to make sure that we're aware of how the color's merging and working, right? It's okay to break the rules. You just want to know which rules you're breaking and why they're getting broken, right? Okay, so I'm going to add in some more green down here. We really like some nice thick greens. I'm going to go right up to some of my heads of my petals. There we go. I'm going to move this one. We have some green here. Again, not making sure to, they don't all need to be completely painted in. We've got some green over here. I almost think I could add a few other flowers, but this is sometimes when I get into trouble. So because we're keeping it simple today, maybe I won't. We might add just some more splatters, as if it was baby's breath around them, right? This is looking super, super nice. You notice I got some green here. That's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. We will clean that up. Okay, now I am gonna let it sit. We're gonna let it sit, we're gonna let it dry. I'll come back, we might do a little bit of pen work, but isn't that pretty? That's coming along really, really nicely. Now, we're gonna do another layer of splatters over this, but I do need it to dry because if I don't, the splatters will blend in with the paint and then it will get a bit muddy. We don't want that. Okay, so you guys, we're gonna let this dry. I'm gonna move in so you can see that. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous fall bouquet. Okay, I'll see you back in just a minute. Okay everyone, we are back. We're gonna start doing some splattering, which I'm super, super excited about. But first, let's go ahead and take your pen. If you have one, what I want you to do is just to create use your micron pen and start doing just a little bit of detail work. Just a little bit. I'm gonna add in some of these little dots that are representing a lot of the little seeds in our flowers. The other thing is, like for example, this flower where I have, the petals are coming out at a different angle. As we splatter, it can sometimes be harder to differentiate all of the different petals or the different shapes. So we're going to go out here. We're just going to add in a little bit of detail. I'm really excited about this. I hope you are too. I know we have, there's not a lot of time in the day, right, to do everything that we want to do. That's for sure. And I was talking just recently on something that I was creating for the Thankful Home project, actually, that I was creating for the creative season, and talking about how I've learned to create in the margins, just taking those 30 minutes at a time, an hour here, maybe even just 15 minutes, and doing some creative work, whether it's working on the embroidery, which I'm doing a bunch of Christmas gifts this year, or a lot of times the painting has come not in when I had tons and tons and blocks of time, but when I had margin, just 30 minutes, 20 minutes. It's kind of helped me a little bit too, because I really love this, and it's been such a gift. It's helped me, not all the time, but to focus on what's the most important so I can get to have that creating time. Because I was reading, I was rereading, which I love, the book Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. Okay, and with the leaves, you notice I'm just making them, use your pen and just make them like really fun, loose. This is really a fun part of using that micron pen to create some whimsy. And I'll get back to Dr. Cloud in just a minute. And so again, just whimsical. If you wanted to add some more petals and you just felt like you didn't add, they were blending, use your pen to add them in. I am going to end up adding in some more color. We're going to add in some thickness, right? So it's really going to kind of really take up, we're working on eating up that inside, and this is going to be so pretty, you guys. So, and I think it's in chapter 2 or 3 of the book, but Dr. Cloud talks about how life just keeps giving more life. Like there's just always too much, and you realizing that you have to let some things go in order to embrace other things. And he talks about like a rose bush and pruning. So go ahead and get your paintbrush really wet. We're gonna do some splattering. Let's actually grab some of the pink, I think. And so you have to choose, right? We always have to choose. Think of that rose bush. There's only so much life that the branches can give to the roses. And he said you have to the gardener has to prune them in order for to have the biggest, most beautiful roses. Otherwise, all the resources they all go out. They can't feed everybody, which I thought was a really interesting way to think about it. Like I don't have enough resources for everything. I only have enough resources really where do I want those really beautiful roses to be. Okay, take your paintbrush now and just start splattering and just nice. I love this. Let it splatter. The closer you keep it to the bottom, the more it's going to be focused splattering. I'm going to go ahead and get some of that darker color and come over here now. And we're just going to splatter around here as well. I love this. I love this. I love this. Okay, I'm going to take my smaller paintbrush now, and I'm going to take the pink, and I'm going to just move that around here, especially if you're thinking that some of your color got just not messed up, but it just blurred together. That happens. So we're going to take some of that pink, lovely. I'm actually go back and take some of the pink, the magenta, and the blue that mixed together. We're going to do some more splattering. Then I'm going to take some of those splatters and start moving them around. So see if you can even add to, oh, I got a little bit of blue in there that I didn't mean to, but that's okay. And using the splatters to create some edges. We're not doing a total splatter like we did with the hydrangeas, but this again, it's just adding some thickness. It's adding a lot of vitality to the painting too, right? So make sure you take advantage of that. Even come into here in some of the areas that are really white and just let the paint dance together. I think that is so fun. This one up here was a little bit more pale. I had added some extra petals. And you can see now too the color variation and the depth, right? We're really starting to go from a two-dimensional to it almost seems to pop out. And this is lovely. You can do this with all sorts of color combinations. And the trick is to not use too many colors. If you want to use a lot of colors, you have to do multiple layers of dry time. And speaking of not having tons of time, usually we don't always have lots and lots and lots of hours, right? So we're gonna have to pick and choose how many colors we want. And I think it's actually really lovely to have just a small grouping of colors, not to have too many. Okay, I'm gonna do some more splatters around here. Then go ahead and rinse your paintbrush out really, really, really well. Grab some of the blue, mix it with that green. You can tell what we're going to do next, right? Then let's do some splattering down below. We're going to come down here and we're going to keep it in the center because again, we want that center part to be coming up quite a bit more than everything else. And I'm now going to take those deeper colors. I'm going to just move them down. See how dark that is? I love that. Let's choose a few to be really prominent. And so we are going to just move these around. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Make sure the leaves too are pointing some different ways. If you want to go grab some of the hooker's green, add more hooker's green to create a stronger green. That would be lovely. Be careful you don't put your hand. See how I got a little bit of paint right there. That happens. If it happens, not a big deal. I'm going to add some more color out here as well. And we are just moving around. I love this. This is super pretty and not difficult, right? Isn't this fun? I hope you're enjoying this. If you are painting with me, I'd love to hear what colors you're using. just leave a comment in the comment section below. So this one's pretty bold. I want at least a couple others to be bold like that too. So we don't have, this isn't a one star of the show. The whole bouquet is really, really working together. And I'm going to add even one more out here. Just beautiful. I am loving this, you guys. I'm going to add some more leafies. Now, what I am going to do too, we've got some color over here. That's not a big deal. What I'll end up doing is I will, let me go ahead here. I've got my phone going off. Let me just turn that on silent. Let's take one more layer of pink, as pinky as you can get it. And I'm going to come over here and just do another layer. We're going to let that dry. I am then going to take the pink, and I'm going to actually take some of my pink and dab it right in here. The reason for that is it will add a layer of coloring. A little bit of it will turn a little brown. That's okay, because some of our stems have a bit of a brown in them. So that's just going to add some different coloring right in here, but creating that sense of harmony in the whole picture. I really like that. Okay, I don't want to mess up the splatters too much. This is lovely. Now, one thing we could do is when it dries, I still can use this and write in that quote. If I want to, I can leave it blank. We could have added in, if I want to do some more splatters over here. These ones are a little bit watery to kind of help avoid focus on some of the little errors right here. Errors are just really the splatters that got away from me. And if you want to do this even too, we could actually take some of the splatters and just move them around. Take a big brush, get it wet, and you can create a sense, almost just a softness around the bouquet. If you didn't, especially if you weren't wanting it to be completely white. I'm just going to move that. I've actually eliminated some of those splatters, right? Go just a little bit up here. Not a lot, just a little bit around the edges to soften everything up. Okay, I think that looks really lovely. I'm actually going to stop. Look at this. In less than, I want to say, this took about 10 minutes for that second layer. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? I think it's lovely. It's going to frame so nicely. And I think that this would make a lovely gift or something for yourself. You could also do it smaller if you want it in journal pages or part of a calendar insert. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, guys, I will see you next time. I hope you love this video. If you do, if you would like it, I would so appreciate that. And I will see you again very, very soon with another Paint With Me session.